Now let's dive into AWS Lambda. So why AWS Lambda? Well, when we have EC2, we were provisioning virtual servers in the cloud, and this is why I wanted to start the course by the more fundamentals, because when we do serverless, we'll get to see the difference between Lambda and EC2. So there's servers in the cloud, and they were limited by RAM and CPU. You said, okay, I want a T2 micro. It has 512 megabytes of RAM, whatever CPU, and it was continuously running. Maybe you had auto scaling, but you needed intervention. You needed auto scaling group, and then we needed to manually add and remove servers that were taking a bit of time. So it's not serverless. We definitely managed the servers. Now with Amazon Lambda, they are virtual functions, as we'll see. So we don't have any servers to manage. It's just pure code. The Lambda functions are limited in time, so they are short execution. When they're done running, they're done. They will run on demand, so if we need more Lambda functions to happen, it will scale within milliseconds, not within minutes. And the scaling will be automated for us. So we just provision the code, and by default, it's meant to scale to the load you're having. So this is a major difference between EC2 and Lambda. Now with Lambda, all the auto scaling, all the provisioning is done for us, whereas in EC2, we had to really think hard about how we wanted to run our infrastructure. So the benefits is that the pricing will be really easy. We're going to pay only per request and compute time. So that means that if your AWS Lambda function is called once a month, you are going to pay just for that once a month invocation that maybe took 2 seconds, and that's it. Whereas if you had an EC2 server, you would have to pay for that server for the whole month, even if it was used once. Now we get a generous free tier from Amazon of 1 million AWS Lambda requests and 400,000 gigabytes second of compute time. So basically it means that your Lambda function can run for a long time and many times, and you'll still be within the free tier. It's integrated with the whole AWS stack. So you probably heard me in this course mention a few times AWS Lambda, and absolutely, Lambda is integrated with the full AWS stack, and we'll see this in the next slide. Basically, that means that Lambda can be used pretty much anywhere to orchestrate, integrate, and improve how you run AWS. It can be used with many programming languages, the most popular ones definitely, and they're always adding new languages on AWS Lambda over time. It's super easy to monitor it. It's going to be integrated with CloudWatch for monitoring. We'll see this in greater detail in the next lectures. And you can basically size your functions by resources. So you can say this function is a very small function. It only needs a little bit of memory, 128 megabytes of memory, which is the smallest you can get. But you can say this function is going to do some heavy lifting. It definitely needs 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is kind of cool. And the more RAM you get, the more CPU and network you'll get for your functions as well. So this is a nice way to think about how you want to size up your function and scale. Now, in terms of language support, we have Node.js, Python, Java, C#, Golang, C#, and PowerShell. So basically, this means that probably you as a developer find your programming language in there. Even if it's Scala, then you can use Java because it's JVM and so on. So you have basically the choice over the language support and also the versions. So I told you that Lambda was integrated with a lot of AWS technologies. Here is the main ones. We have API Gateway, Kinesis, DynamoDB, S3, IoT, CloudWatch Events, CloudWatch Logs, SNS, Cognito, and SQS. So there is a wide array of integrations that you can do within all these technologies in AWS Lambda. That means that Lambda functions can be triggered based on whatever happens in whatever AWS service you're using, which really allows you for greater flexibility. And I probably missed a few in there. But the idea is that your Lambda is a major service in AWS, and it is super important for you to know it as a developer. In this course, we'll be testing out a few integrations and talking about architecture. Let's talk about a concrete example. Say we wanted to have a serverless thumbnail creation. So that means when the user uploads an image, we want to generate a smaller version of that image called a thumbnail, just to be able to be more efficient and have a better functioning website. So let's say our users will upload images and they will land into S3. So this beach image will be in S3. And so because Lambda is integrated with S3, our Lambda function will be triggered, and the role of that Lambda function will be to do some stuff and create a thumbnail. The thumbnail will be pushed maybe to the same S3 bucket, maybe to a new S3 bucket, but as you can see, my beach image is now a little bit smaller. So the thumbnail was created, And then maybe you want to also push the metadata in DynamoDB, such as the image name, image size, creation date, etc., just to get a little bit of information there as well. And so the idea here is that there are no servers to manage. S3 is serverless, Lambda is serverless, and so is DynamoDB. It's a serverless database. And so the idea here is that this scales infinitely as well. If we upload 10,000 images in S3, our Lambda function will be called 10,000 times and scale with us. So when we have such a service, we're confident that our Lambda function can serve very little load or very massive load and will be built accordingly. In terms of pricing, it's important to understand it. You can always find it, in this page. But so you pay per calls. So the first million requests are free. You pay 20 cents per 1 million requests afterwards. And you're going to pay for duration in increments of 100 milliseconds. And so the way it computes is that there's something called the 400 gigabyte second. And this is a bit of a weird metric, but that means that you get 400,000 seconds of execution if your function is using 1 gigabyte of RAM. So if you're using less RAM, say 128 megabyte of RAM, then you get 3.2 million seconds of execution. So this is why you can't just request a lot of RAM. I would suggest you select enough RAM just to run your function, but this way you get more duration for free, and even if you rebuild, you get more duration overall. After that, you would pay $1 for 600,000 gigabyte second. Needless to say, it's really, really cheap to run AWS Lambda, and it's very popular overall. I know many websites now that run with Lambda as a backend. So that's it for AWS Lambda. That was a slight introduction. We're going to do more deep dive into the features, but let's go ahead with a quick hands-on example to understand how things work.